Thank you. So just to advise everybody, if you want to keep your cameras on or off, it's entirely up to yourself, but the meeting tonight has been recorded. Thank you so much for coming along. My name is Emma Wallace. I'm the Clinical Director here at Diverse Diagnostics. Our webinar tonight is focusing on the importance of movement and exercise for ADHD and how it really supports your attention, mood, learning and well-being. Just a bit of general housekeeping. If everybody could possibly please keep their microphones turned off, that would be great. There will be a little chat function for you if you want to pop any questions in there. Cara, who's with us, is going to keep a wee eye on that chat, and at the end we've got a wee section for questions that we'll run through. What we're going to look at, we're going to have a wee think about how exercise and why exercise helps ADHD. We're going to have a wee think about the science behind movement and attention, have a wee think about benefits for both adults and children. We'll think about the types of activity that work well, how much activity is recommended, and practical ways to maybe build movement into your everyday life as well. So ADHD and the brain is a really interesting and important thing that we need to be thinking about, because it affects our attention. We know it affects our executive functioning, so that planning, organising, being able to sequence events, being able to structure our day, all of these things come as part of our executive functioning. It plays a big part in emotion regulation, so how intensely we feel our feelings, how strongly we react to feelings, but also it plays a big part in how we react and respond in the moment, and how much thinking time we've got between having a feeling and acting on it. It affects obviously our impulse control, it affects motivation, it affects things like working memory. Exercise supports many of these same brain systems. So when we're thinking about the importance of movement, it plays a really big domino effect on the positive effects of improving attention, focus, concentration, etc. as well. So why does exercise help? Well, one of the things that science tells us is that it does increase how our body uptakes dopamine and noradrenaline, as well as serotonin. Now, these are the chemicals that are involved in things like focus, motivation, mood, reward, emotion regulation, all of these things that we know that for lots of people with ADHD is going to be really challenging at times. What exercise does is it provides this kind of natural boost in many of those neurotransmitters that are involved in ADHD, and that's why it's a really positive thing to think about. And when we talk about exercise, we're not just speaking about going to the gym or doing a specific activity or sport. We're talking about any movement. Getting up and moving about for short periods of time is just as effective as doing one big long exercise session. So what the research shows us is that regular physical activity, so whether that be something more intense like going to a gym class or playing a sport, or even just getting up and going for a walk around the house, or even cleaning your room, can improve things like our sustained attention, so that ability to see something and focus on it, our executive functioning, so planning, organising, structuring our time. It improves things like our working memory. It can help reduce feelings of hyperactivity and restlessness as well. So if you're sitting here with ADHD yourself, or you think about your kids potentially, if you're here because you've got young people who've got ADHD, think about that need for movement, that impulse control that it takes to hold on to that restlessness and sit with it, to stay in your chair in class, or not get up and move about, or stop jiggling your leg. That need for movement is massive for people with ADHD often, and one of those things that exercise really helps with is just giving a wee outlet for that. Massively helps with mood and emotion regulation. So again, thinking about how we feel those feelings, how we process those feelings, having some space just to think about how we feel and want to react to those. It can have a big impact and positive impact on anxiety symptoms. So where you are feeling apprehensive, for people who maybe have physical symptoms of anxiety, it can really improve and support a reduction in those anxiety symptoms. The other thing that it does, and again, it's something we know that lots of people with ADHD really struggle with, is sleep. Our sleep quality can be really poor. The ability to fall asleep at night can be really challenging. Sometimes staying asleep can be really tricky. Are we up and down throughout the night? All of these things are really positively impacted on by movement as well. And so if we are moving our body enough, then we're going to see an improvement in those symptoms, even without doing any of the other things that we might think about for ADHD, like medication or therapy. Exercise is really not a replacement for these things. It's not about us doing none of the other stuff alongside it, because, there's lots of really important things we need to think about when we're thinking about how we manage our ADHD symptoms and minimise the disruption that some of those can cause in our day-to-day life. So thinking about things like our dietary intake, thinking about how we are ensuring we've got good sleep hygiene and sleep quality, thinking about medication potentially, or therapy or coaching around ADHD are incredibly important. But exercise and movement is a really valuable part of a comprehensive treatment plan, and it's something that we should all be thinking about. When we think about benefits for children, so specifically what we know and what the research supports is that movement helps children to focus better in school. It helps with regulation of emotions. It helps with being able to just have that processing time, especially for children that are going through developmental stages, as every other child does. When you layer ADHD on top of that, it can make learning how to manage and process and experience our feelings feel more intense, more challenging. Often when I'm working with young people, they'll describe, and adults as well, will describe a feeling of going from 0 to 100 with feelings. And often that's just about how our limbic system, which is massively affected by ADHD, how that functions. Now, thinking about behaviour as well. So do you have a young person that's a bit restless, that gets himself into a bit of mischief, that is maybe just a little bit impulsive, does all that thinking and acting without processing the consequences of what's going to be the outcome of whatever they're doing? It can help with that. The other thing that it can do is it can help develop confidence. One of the big things that we often talk about in ADHD is the impact it has on mental health and self-esteem. And we know for lots of young people who are maybe constantly being told, sit at peace, or have you paid attention? Did you finish this? Have you started that? When they compare themselves to their peers, and lots of us as adults will do it as well, when you compare yourself to people around you who don't have ADHD, whose brain does just kick into gear and wants to start a task and get it finished, or can start something and follow it straight through, it has a huge impact on our confidence. So allowing our young people to feel in control, not just by having to take a medication, but also giving them non-medication based strategies like movement to allow them to reconfigure their brain, to allow them to feel more in charge, focus a little better. It's going to give that little confidence boost to know that they're in charge of their brain and their body and what's going on. It can reduce stress. So we know, think about a time where you've maybe been really feeling overwhelmed, or you've had lots on your plate and there's been lots going on. In those situations, a wee bit of movement, whether that be going for a walk or pacing about for a little bit, or, doing a bit of intense power cleaning at home, just to burn out some of that energy, can really help with that stress feeling. It can improve sleep. So where you have a young person who potentially they're on medication during the day, their behaviour during the day, it's one of the things that often comes up, that ADHD symptoms, behaviour, concentration, focus, impulsivity, all of these things are really well managed during the day because medication is effective. Lots of the medicines that we use for ADHD, and adults will experience this too, wear off in the evenings. And sometimes what will happen is it's almost like a re-emergence of all these symptoms. So if you've been really settled during the day, you might start to feel really fidgety. You might feel like your body's just needing lots of movement. Exercising that in those times of day. So, think about how your child might seem to be able to sleep a wee bit better after being at sports clubs during the week versus the nights that they're not at it. It can also help with building friendships as well. So going into environments where there are other kids who are engaging in exercise, who are doing the sporting activities that you're linking them in with, or who are maybe going to the running track at night. I know lots of schools now will have kind of purpose-built running tracks, and lots of kids will go and kind of hang out there and run and do some exercise, playing football, playing golf, doing different activities, and encouraging them to get moving with their friends is a really important thing as well. What we know, and the biggest outcome of that, is that active children will often return to learning much more ready to concentrate. And this is where it's really important, especially if you're thinking with school about how best to support your child in their learning environment. How do we build in movement breaks during the day? It's not just about giving them time to get out of their chair. It's not about distracting people from their lessons or from what they're supposed to be doing. Actually, what it's about is giving them time to regulate and recover and refocus themselves to return to their learning activity. So having little 5-10 minute movement breaks dotted throughout your kid's school day is going to have a huge domino effect potentially on just their ability to focus in those short bursts that they're doing. When we're thinking about adults, so regular exercise might help adults do things like start tasks a wee bit more easily, improve your concentration, reduce sense of overwhelm as well, and increase your energy overall. I think it's one of those paradoxical things, isn't it, that we think, oh goodness, I'm going to do all of this exercise, and I'm going to do this movement, or I'm going to have this activity, and then I'm going to be burnt out. Actually, what exercise and what physical movement does is the opposite of that. It can help improve your mood. It can reduce anxiety as well. Again, similar to young people, it will help improve sleep. And it's going to support your long-term health as well. So as we age, we need to think about all the usual things that happen to our body. You know, when we are maybe not looking after it as well as we could, there's lots of health things that will arise for everybody at some stage in their life, that we know by proxy improving and increasing your activity and your energy output is going to support with long-term. The other thing that it can do is it can support with that task initiation. So when you are feeling like you're struggling to concentrate, how many times have you sat at your computer knowing that you've got things to do, but it's not until there's a looming deadline or that there's an immediate need for that thing to be done that your brain kind of suddenly kicks into gear. That's your brain working on that dopamine drive. It knows that if it doesn't do it, there's going to be a consequence for that task not being done for work, for example. And if you're able to kind of manufacture that yourself by getting up away from your computer, going for a walk with a dog, even walking about the house for a little bit, picking a different activity to do, do a bit of a clean, grab the hoover for 5 minutes, something that's a bit different. When you return to do that task, you're going to find yourself a wee bit better prepared and a wee bit better motivated to actually just jump right into that. So what is executive function and why is it really important? Exercise strengthens our skills. So things like planning, being able to work out what we need to do, put an order together of how we need to do that, and think about the importance of those projects. When we are trying to hold all of that in our brain at one time, if your brain is so busy and there's information fleeting in and out about various parts of things, it's really hard to concentrate on one thing at a time and to put those things in order. We know that's a big struggle for lots of people with ADHD. It's why we encourage the use of external hard drives, like writing things down, using task lists on your phone, because you're not then relying on your brain to remember all that information. But we notice that you'll notice that increasing that movement and increasing that exercise is going to allow you just a little bit more bandwidth there. I often describe that kind of planning and organisation skills. It's kind of like trying to watch 3 or 4 different TV channels at the same time. I remember before we had the days of the joys of being able to pause and rewind our TV or record things and watch at a later time. If there were 2 programmes on you wanted to watch at one time, you had to pick one or the other, or you were flicking between the 2. And that's kind of what your brain does when ADHD is playing a part in things. You're trying to watch those 2 programmes, but it's jumping between the 2 channels. So you're not picking up all the information that you need to be able to make a decision about one or the other. Self-control is a big thing as well. So having that ability to pause and be able to think about what you want to do, have a plan in place for how you're going to do that, and then act on that plan without just jumping impulsively into something. It helps with working memory. It helps with being able to hold on to the information that you want, and use your kind of thinking flexibly as well. Think of exercise almost as a way of training your brain as well as your body as well. When we think about the mental health benefits, so many people with ADHD, as I've mentioned before, will also experience things like anxiety, depression, stress, low self-esteem. All of these things will play a part in how we're feeling. Now, these mental health differences can sit alongside ADHD. It's absolutely possible to have a neurodevelopmental condition like ADHD and a separate generalised anxiety disorder or social anxiety or agoraphobia or something else that's sitting totally separate. Quite often though they are overlapped, and when we think about how our brain manages and processes emotions, I mentioned earlier on the limbic system, that's the bit of our brain that controls. I always liken it to the kids' movie Inside Out, that little control centre where all the emotions are kind of using the controls to drive how the person reacts. That's what your limbic system is like. And we know for lots of people with ADHD that can feel really intense. So it often will feel like your emotions are going from 0 to 100, or there's very little grey area in between, very little thinking time between having that feeling and reacting to it. Equally, things like anxiety, that sense of mood, all of these things are happening within that limbic system, and they are all impacted upon by ADHD. So what we know is that exercise has been shown to reduce those stress hormones, improve your mood, increase resilience, improve that confidence, and allow us to feel better in charge of our own emotions rather than our emotions being in charge of us. Sleep is incredibly important as well, and this is something that lots and lots of people will relate to, that the sleep can be massively challenging in ADHD. Good sleep supports things like focus, mood, learning, emotion regulation. We know, and if you look at all of the studies that are out there, even if we don't try medication for ADHD, if you're better able to improve your sleep quality, then your ADHD symptoms the following day are going to be improved. So we know that regular daytime activity helps fall asleep faster, improve that sleep quality, so you're not having such a restless sleep. You're maybe not as fidgety through the night. You're maybe not up and down, waking up throughout the night as much. But what that also does in turn as well is it helps regulate your body clock. One of the big things that we need to think about with sleep is that it's not something that's going to change overnight. When we talk about sleep hygiene, what we're talking about is putting the same routines and structures in place night after night after night. So if you know that exercise helps or movement before bedtime helps your body and your brain to wind down and to sleep a wee bit easier, try and implement that as part of your strategies for nighttime. For some people, exercising right before bed is going to have the opposite effect. So you kind of need to play about with the times a day that you're doing that to see what works best for you. Some people will find that exercising in the morning is better versus exercising in the evening. It's very individual. But making sure that when you get into the habits, you're sticking with them. Quite often what we'll do when we're thinking about habit change is we'll try it for a few days and say, oh, that doesn't work, so I'm not going to try that again. What we know and what the research says to us is that it actually takes an average of three weeks to 4 weeks for any habits to become your new norm. So that really emphasises the importance of sticking with something. Don't chop and change what you're doing. Pick a routine, pick something you're doing, whether that's wind down activities, whether that's adding a little bit of gentle exercise or movement before bed, allowing yourself that kind of time to get all that restlessness out. Using kind of relaxation techniques, whatever it is that you're putting into your sleep hygiene routine, stick with it and be perseverant with it, so that you're going to get yourself into a much better routine. And by proxy, that sleep is going to have a domino effect. That better sleep is going to have a domino effect on your ADHD symptoms overall. So what counts as exercise? Everything. Movement. Any movement that you're doing at all. Walking, running, swimming, cycling, dancing, football, martial arts, yoga, trampolining, playground play, gardening, cleaning your house, anything at all. Walking the dog, you name it. Moving your body counts. Some people will use little walking pads when they're working, which are a great way of getting movement in. If you are taking calls at work, for example, can you stick some headphones in and go and wander about the living room while you're taking your calls for work? Active games as well. There's lots of board games that are great to play. Throw burrito in our house is the favourite one. But games that are actually encouraging you to be moving. Twister, that's another great one. Every single movement counts, and it's not necessarily about paying for expensive gym memberships, taking yourself to the gym. When we talk about things like dancing, go up and dance about your living room, put your music on and just jump about with the kids, or get yourself moving with your partner, or you're on your own. Sometimes it's nice just to be able to be a bit silly and do a bit of a wiggle on your own as well. So which activities work best? What we know are things that are enjoyable, that are sustainable, are going to be the things that tend to pique the ADHD brain's interest. Thinking about things like martial arts, swimming, rock climbing. There's something to be said about things that get your juices flowing. So activities that give you a bit of a dopamine hit. If you find something boring, if your worst nightmare is going to the gym, there is no point. It's not going to do what you're hoping for it to do. Find something that you actually enjoy doing. The best exercise is the one that you're actually going to keep doing. It's not the one that you're going to have to force yourself to go to all the time. So how much activity should we be doing? Well, what we know is that for children, so age 5 to 18 years, about 60 minutes of daily activity is about the average that we would say is what they should be doing. Now, that includes all the running about in the playgrounds at lunchtime. That includes, kind of that walk to and from school. So you're talking about cumulatively, not like it doesn't need to be 60 minutes all at the one time. Mostly focusing on kind of moderate to vigorous activity. What we know for adults, about 150 minutes a week, and doing kind of some sort of strength training as part of that, a couple of times a week as well, as part of your 150 minutes. As I say, even those short bursts of activity are beneficial. If someone said to me, oh, you're going to need to go and do 150 minutes of movement over the next week, I would laugh, because I think absolutely not. But then if you think about how long did you spend cleaning the house, how long did you spend walking the dog, all of these activities count towards that time frame. So try and kind of focus on just doing something every day. Small movements, as I say, are really, really important. Try doing things like 10-minute walks, stretch breaks. If you've been sitting at the computer all day for work, for example, or you've found yourself just feeling a bit tight and tense, do a bit of stretching. Walking meetings. So, things like, are you going for a catch up with a friend rather than going to sit for a coffee? Go grab a coffee and go for a walk around the park. Do some dancing while you're cooking, get outside and play with the pets or the kids or whoever. Active commuting as well. So think, is there a way, if you are having to get into the office, if you are having to go to extracurricular activities or what have you, can you make the commute to and from a wee bit more active? Is there a way to walk instead of driving? Can you cycle? Things like that. When you're in work or you're in a building, for example, take the stairs instead of the lift. That counts. All these things, these little shifts in what you're doing day to day, they all count. And consistency will always matter more than perfection. Don't be hard on yourself for not doing something in a day. We've all been there. Sometimes you're tired. Sometimes you just don't have the energy. It's fine. Just pick yourself up and keep going. So how do we support our kids to be more active? Because they're going to learn from us, and they look to us for what is the norm at home. So make it fun is really a priority. Kids are not going to want to do the boring stuff. Do it together as well, and you're kind of both then getting the benefit from it. Limit the pressure on it. It's not about you must do, or we've not hit our 60 minutes today, so we're going to have to go and do something. Just make it a bit nonchalant, be a bit nonchalant about it all, and just, come with me for a walk to the dog, let's walk the dog together, or come on, go jump on the trampoline for 10 minutes. Build the routines as well. So, make it part of the norm. You're always going to go walk the dog before dinner, or you're going to go to football on a Tuesday, whatever it is, build it into the routine. It's part of your normal day to day. We're not drawing special attention to it. And remember, praise their effort, not the performance. It doesn't matter if they're rubbish at what they're doing. It doesn't matter if they're not scoring all the goals at football. It doesn't matter if they're not doing backflips on the trampoline just quite yet. The fact that they're out and doing it, get really positive with them about it, and you're going to see them want to do that more and more. For adults, it's a bit more difficult because sometimes we are stuck in a rut. what we need to do is we need to be choosing activities that feel enjoyable. The ADHD brain thrives on a new novel experience. Pick something you've never done before. Pick something that you're going to find as a new hyper focus for a while. Include music. So when our brain is busy, filling it with music allows us something to focus on and something to concentrate on, but also helps us just re-regulate a little bit as well. Have accountability for yourself. If you've not done it, then say you've not done it. Have somebody that you maybe go with. This is where things like body doubling is really helpful. If you've got a partner or a friend or someone that you can go with, that you say, right, you know what, we're going to go for a walk on Wednesday night. If you're only going for that walk yourself, you might be more inclined to justify it to yourself not to do it. But if you know you've got a friend that you're going with, you're going to kind of maybe feel a bit more accountable in doing that. Make it fit your schedule as well. So there's no point in signing up for a gym membership that you know you're never going to be able to attend. Do the little things that work for you. I've got a friend who she swears by a power hour in her lunch break. So she works around the corner from her house. She'll go home on her hour's lunch break. Does about 45 minutes and we'll get right into, she'll have her lunch. While she's making her lunch, she'll clean down the work surfaces. She'll maybe do a wee hoover around the house. She'll do a bit of mopping. You're killing two birds with one stone. She's getting that movement in. She's avoiding the procrastination of the boring task that is housework, but she's setting herself a timer so she knows that it's, she's not doing it forever. It's not an endless task, but it's going to be something that's done and fits in with her schedule, and she doesn't need to think about it at other times when the kids are home or her husband's home. Even on low motivation days, what you want to do is you want to be setting realistic goals for yourself. Done is always going to be better than perfect. Same as with your kids. Praise effort rather than performance with yourself. Some of the common barriers. So we know loads of people struggle with time, motivation, fatigue, forgetting to do it even, feeling overwhelmed. If you've had a really rough day, sometimes it's easier just to head yourself off and close yourself away. Some really things really to start with and strategies to put in place. Start really tiny, really, really small. You're talking walking for 5 minutes instead of, going to walk into the shop up the street takes 5 minutes rather than taking the car. Tiny, tiny little changes. And then stack your habits. So what you want to do is you want to master the first one, that teeny tiny habit. Do that first. You're not going to go, if you're not doing any exercise, you're not doing any movement at the moment, you're not going to go from doing nothing to doing the 150 minutes a week right overnight. What you're going to do though is you're potentially going to be able to make the morning walk for the paper or go for the rolls and come back. That's a good small start. And once that becomes part of your routine, once that becomes part of the norm, stick something else on top of it. So thinking about how you might use things like reminders. So is it that you need to set a wee reminder and an alarm on your phone? This is a movement break. I'm going to get up at lunchtime, or you're starting a piece of work and you're going to need to get up and move about, do a bit of stretching, or what have you. Set a wee timer an hour after you start the task, or however long works for you. Exercising with others is a good thing as well. So joining like local walking groups, or if you're going to the gym or going to classes, stuff like that can be really useful because you're there with other people. But also, think about your own friends, your family, people who you might want to exercise with, the kids. And the other thing is to prepare ahead. So say if you know you're going to get up in the morning and go to the gym, pack your bag the night before. Don't give yourself two tasks. Your brain's going to register that getting prepared as a task on top of the task of actually getting to the gym, on top of the task of actually being in the gym and doing the activities. Minimize that as much as you can. So prepare ahead of time. Have your clothes set out the night before. Do you have your shower, all your equipment, everything that you're going to need to get it prepared? If you know you're going to go for the dog walk, hang the dog lead on the door, handle before you go to your bed. Little things like that just take a step out of what you're going to have to do in the moment, especially when your motivation's low. That those little changes are going to help. So how do we make that movement sustainable? Instead of asking ourselves, how do I exercise more? Just think about when can I move today? What's realistic? What's enjoyable? And what's repeatable? Those small habits are going to become lasting habits the more you do them and the more you implement them into your day. What we know is that exercise helps with attention, executive function, mood, emotion regulation, sleep, physical health, our overall sense of well-being. It is one of the most effective lifestyle tools that's available for supporting ADHD symptoms. And so if you can work out a way to get some of that into your day, even in just little tiny chunks, start with a minute or two, then you're going to notice a big difference over time. So what can we do to help you and help your family? So we know at Diverse Diagnostics, we offer free 15-minute consultations. Everybody here will be potentially at different points in their journey. Do you have a diagnosis of ADHD? Are you thinking about ADHD? Is it something that you're already kind of down the path of? You're welcome to give us a week off, free 15-minute consultation. We can give advice and guidance there as well. You might want to consider assessment with us for ADHD or ASD. We have lots of Facebook support groups, 2 separate groups, one for parents and one for adults. You're welcome to join those and kind of get access to support in all of our webinars, and we put out lots of communications kind of week on week, both from myself and from our CEO, Medical Director, Dr. Baja, and we put out lots of helpful hints and tips and strategies on those as well. You can join our mailing list. So just pop us your email. You can receive our hot blog topics. We send them out every month. They cover all manner of things. And you can follow us on all the other kind of usual social media platforms as well. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn as well. All our top tips and advice goes out on all our platforms. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen just for a wee second. Thank you so much for your time and listening today. And I'm going to come back to you, and I'll stop sharing. I think that should be us. I'm just going to have a wee look in the chat function. I don't think I see any questions in the chat. Cara, have you seen anything in there? Or are we...
No, not seen anything so far, no.
Please, thank you. Does anybody have any specific questions, anything they would like to ask or speak about? iPad 7, I'm going to ask your name as well, so I'm not calling you iPad 7, but absolutely fire away. If you want to add it in the chat, you can do so, or feel free to take your mic off and we can have a chat as well. I'll let you maybe add that into the chat. I assume you're typing. Lily, do you want to?
Yes, I mean, are we okay without the video, or do you
Absolutely,
prefer?
yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay.
Whatever
Now,
you're
I just wanted to ask, it may be a silly question, but
No such thing.
yeah. I know, I wanted to ask, thank you. I wanted to ask about exercise. What type of exercise may be better? Because I'm still to take on the assessment, the full assessment with yourself. I had my first initial consultation. I'm saving towards the assessment, I will be honest with you. I'm working hard. But I believe I mean, when I took the test, I'm both ADHD and autistic in the same time, if that makes sense. So which is quite a conflict in many ways on a different level.
Yeah.
But I feel that cardio exercise actually makes it worse for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's me or if it's actually it makes sense.
To be honest, Lily, it's very different for everybody.
Okay.
Some people will thrive with cardio. I think what the important thing about exercise is it's the right thing for you.
Okay.
If it doesn't feel like it's helpful and effective, then it's probably not the right thing for you. It might be worthwhile looking at maybe doing more kind of weight-based kind of exercise if you're thinking about gym type work, or look at sports. You know, things like yoga, stretching, Pilates. All of these things are really, really good, very gentle movement. Pilates maybe not so gentle, but it's just about trying lots of different things and seeing what actually feels good for you.
Because I'm early 50s now, and I think with perimenopause, I feel that my symptoms are actually increasing, like quite a lot, on many levels. I don't know if it's related or not, but I have noticed it. But walking is fine, but running, I can't do anymore. It just stresses me out.
Yeah. And there'll be lots of people that will feel the very same.
Okay.
It's just about working out what works for you.
Okay.
And what's really interesting, I think, about the way that the neurodiverse brain works is that what ticks your fun box and gives you those big dopamine hits is going to be totally different from what ticks someone else's. And so it's just about working out what are the things that actually feel really good and that give you that increased dopamine, increase the noradrenaline, increase the serotonin in your brain. And what you'll probably find is that something will work for a little while and then you'll get a bit bored of it and you'll need to find something else. And that's okay. It's just about recognising those cycles and adapting and modulating what you're doing in accordance to that. So it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. There's definitely nothing wrong with you. It's just it's not the right thing for you, and that's fair.
Thank you.
No worries. So James has asked, can we get an email copy of the recordings? So our recordings are all posted on our YouTube page, so you should be able to jump on there. Don't worry, that's not a bother at all. It should usually go up within the kind of week. So just keep an eye out on our YouTube page, and it'll be on there, the full recording. So iPad 7, I used to be a big gym rat doing lots of the same exercises, but I've been finding it less fun lately. I'm torn between wanting to try something new and finding it hard to break away from the same exercise routine. I'm AuDHD, so I have a love-hate relationship with routine. Katie, absolutely. And this is where the ADHD and the autism kind of conflict, isn't it? That really enjoyable routine and structure sometimes just doesn't tick the fun box, like I was saying to Lily there. Changing it up, mixing it up a little bit, even if it's just, things like the actual exercises you're doing when you're in the gym. Create a wee new routine. You could do, just a different combination or a different order of the exercises might be enough to just reignite things again for you. But it is, like you say, it's just about finding what works for you at that time, and the need to change that is really common. It might not be that you enjoy or want to do like the big change, so it's like not changing the activity entirely, but it's maybe just making little switches and doing little changes within the routine that you've already got, and that might be enough just to kind of get you re-engaged again. Learning Lighthouse has asked, will we be hosting a Zoom session around other elements of ADHD, such as binge drinking and eating? Absolutely. So every month we do a different session, and we'll put out whatever's going to be covered that month. But certainly I'll make sure that one is on the list, because that's a huge part of ADHD. Does anybody else have any other questions they want to ask? Recently classed as disabled due to osteoarthritis. So Jenny's saying, I'm recently classed as disabled due to osteoarthritis in both hips and knees, finding it hard to move since having replacement, but I really find it difficult to move like I used to. Can you recommend anything? Absolutely. So there are loads of classes. Most of your, I don't know if you have like local authority kind of gyms in your area, most of those classes will do kind of like live active sessions that are gauged at different ability levels, right from like wheelchair activities all the way up to kind of full activity, kind of mobility based activities. It's definitely maybe worthwhile having a wee look at your local gyms and seeing what options you've got out there. The other thing to think about is your kind of low impact activities as well, so things that are going to help you to move but not in a way that's going to cause any kind of pressure or any increased kind of issue with your joints or your bones. Anybody got any other questions at all? No. Well, I shall tie things up there. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time and your participation this evening. As I say, we do run these sessions every month. It's always the third Tuesday of the month at 8 o'clock. Our information about what that session will be about is going to be on our socials each month. We usually send them out a couple of weeks in advance. So please, if there is anything in the meantime, you know where we are. Just give us a wee shout through either our email, or you can give us a wee call or have a wee hop on our website and contact us through our contact form there. But thank you again, everybody, for your time.
Thank you very much.
No worries. Have a lovely night, everybody. I hope you all enjoy the rest of the sunshine.